Okay, it's 12:30. We're going to get started here. We're still waiting on some attendees to log on. They're logging on as we speak. So just going to kind of get through some of the the initial stuff here. I wanted to mention everybody. So first of all, welcome. My name is Don Tiemann. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Operations for ASP Enterprises, Bowman Construction Supply, and Quick Supply Company. So we'll talk a little bit about our company here in a couple minutes. Want to make sure that you're familiar with, and if you are, likely if you're on, you've got our email. We are going to do this every couple of weeks. We've got a schedule lined out. We've also got on our news page on our website information about it as well. So this is a program we're going to continue to work with and hopefully improve upon. I will tell you, this is our excuse me, our first attempt excuse me, at doing this. And so we've spent a lot of time practicing. I think we're going to be in good shape here. The timing, we're going to be done promptly at 1:30. 1:15, we should be in a position to do question and answers. One of our challenges is going to be that the internet across the country has been rather slow. So I'm hoping that everything sounds well. And there's no issues with everybody's internet. We have disabled the chat function. So what we want you to do is use the question and answer. That should be a button on your screen. And we will answer those questions at the end because the way the webinar is set up, you all are automatically on mute. So that question and answer is something that I will monitor. I'm going to moderate the webinar today. After we are finished with this, you will receive an email from me that has a link to a SurveyMonkey survey, and that survey will have some questions on it, but also is your way of getting your PDH. We'll explain that some more here in a minute as well. And ultimately, our goal here today is to show you all some innovative solutions, spark some interest in those solutions, and then work with you, hopefully following up afterwards, whether it's with specific projects, whether you would want like a lunch and learn in your office. We can do that virtually as well. But again, trying to, just keep the economy going, keep everybody moving, keeping everybody informed while we're, in many cases, sitting in our home offices. And I know everybody's got a lot to do, so we're going to get right to it. So again, what we are looking at is we are ASP Enterprises, Quick Supply, and Bowman Construction Supply. All three businesses, well over 30 years of business, years of experience, each one of them. A total of 8 offices, and you can see the cities listed there. And we are technical experts. We are not just sales guys. For example, we have several certified professional in erosion and sediment controls on staff. That's the CPESC. As well as civil engineer on staff. That's Bill Murphy. I'm going to introduce him here in a minute. And then, like I said, the sales professionals that we have across the region, understanding the products, understanding how to design with them all the way through installation and follow-up. And well over 6,000 customers in the region. So been around a while. Many of you are familiar with us. Those website links, you'll see those again, but those are great technical resources for you. And probably the most important I want to impress upon you is that you can specify with confidence that we have the servicing ability to take care of those projects. We have many trucks all over the region, millions of dollars in inventory sitting in our yards to be ready and able to service all projects, whether it's erosion control, geosynthetics, all the different materials and products and solutions that we offer. Here you can just see some of our inventory, the pictures of our inventory, and this is actually our Kansas City yard, but we have yards like this in all our major markets. And again, the website, we have some of the best brands in our industry, and all those brands are represented with both specification sheets and all that kind of stuff, installation guides. So our website can be a huge resource for you. They're also mobile friendly. So want to make sure we get that out of the way. So looks like we've got a majority of everybody on board. With that, we'll get started. I want to introduce both speakers today. First one is Bill Murphy. He is a professional engineer. He is out of Iowa, but services our entire region. He's been in the civil engineering field for many years, doing site developments and all kinds of things. He's been with us for over 5 years now, focusing on driving specifications and driving innovative solutions to the design community. Alexiandrik will be speaking on part of our Perpetual Pavement solutions here. He's had many years experience in the asphalt industry, has been with us for several years now, and really understands this ACE fiber that we're going to talk about today. So with that, I am going to move straight to Bill Murphy. And Bill, you have the floor.
And I'm going to click in this box and try to get controls from you, Don. There, I got them. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, not to waste time talking about me, Don did a great job on the introduction, and he is Mr. On Time, I tell you, 12:35. And a good friend of mine just texted me and said, I thought this would be a video chat. I want to see your ugly mug. And I can tell you I voted against that. Our committee thought that that might be a good idea to have a personal touch. And I've got quarantine hair. I'm wearing a cap, as many of you probably are. I want to say I'm proud of you for those of you that are following the instructions and hold up at home. I'm also very proud of you who are considered essential employees that have to work. We are an essential company being in the construction industry. I'm in an actual warehouse with drivers loading trucks as I speak. So if you do hear some noise and some hollering, and it's all good stuff, our drivers and warehouse guys are very busy as construction continues and the weather's cooperated. But I am quarantined at home when I'm not doing a webinar. I'm just here because I have faster internet. And what I heard recently is Don talked about slow internet. They say about 70% of internet bandwidth is being used by kids gaming online. And the rest of it's by parents trying to use Zoom for meetings and presentations, and also everybody streaming their videos. A reminder to use the Q&A, that helps us. So if you're new to Zoom, if you look around in your controls, you'll have the option of typing in a Q&A for us. We probably won't interrupt ourselves during, just for the sake of staying on track for time. But towards the end, we're hoping to allow some time to answer as many of those as we can. Whatever questions you ask in that Q&A session that we can't get to today, we will send out via email. So we will answer all of them. The other thing you can use for that Q&A is to tee up projects you might have and get that conversation started. Don will give all of our contact information at the end of this presentation so you can stay in touch with us. We do appreciate your feedback. That's a very short survey that Don mentioned, and it's going to help us continue to get better at these webinars. I'm going to jump right into it. As a civil engineer, I'm a member of ASCE, and every 4 years we publish the infrastructure report card. By the way, that's a reminder to renew your ASCE membership. I mentioned this on LinkedIn, and a lady from ASCE kindly reminded me that I need to renew mine. So you know how that sneaks up on you. Four years before the 2017 card, the 2013 card was issued. And I don't like to read to people. If you can see on your screen, you'll be able to read these different categories that ASCE measures our infrastructure. There's 16 different groups that get letter grades, and those are just used as indications to try to identify priorities and to find out where we have the areas of greatest need. Anything I show on here is not an indictment of civil engineers or anybody else in the construction industry. It's just identify the problem and then figure out the solution. So one of the things that we've learned is with this report card, they continue to compare results from one report to the next to see if things are getting better. You'll see no arrow in front of roads. That means the letter grade didn't change from 2013 to 2017. Didn't go up, didn't go down. A D is still a D. And that's not an indictment of us. It's not a criticism of us in the profession. It's just a fact that many, many Americans drive cars every day, and we all know that. So our existing infrastructure is aging, and ongoing repairs just can't keep up with demand yet. Now, with something like what we're experiencing now, there's a lot fewer cars on the road, but this is temporary. And we all know what it's going to look like when we get the all clear and this thing clears up. There's going to be a lot of people back on the road, and we hope to come see you all again. But in order to get ahead of this challenge we have to get that letter grade up, we're going to have to really identify what types of things we can do better. And that's what we're doing now, is sharing information, sharing knowledge. When we do a full hour just of our roads, and we're in a room with a room full of engineers or contractors or government agency folks, we can get specific about finding out what cracking is, or which failures you're seeing in your area, whether it be cracking or rutting or raveling. The fact is, we all see some version of these one place or another. Certain regions, based on climate and soil conditions and traffic patterns and just the old practices of design and construction of the roadways, see some of the cracking more than others. In the old days of asphalt, flexible pavement, rutting was a real problem. Warmer temperatures, and it was soft mixes. So to compensate for that, the industry kind of overcompensated and went to much stiffer mixes. So rather than rutting be a leading problem in a lot of areas, cracking became the problem as the pendulum swung towards stiffer mixes. So asphalt binder is being asked to do more than it can really do. It's being asked to prevent rutting and prevent cracking all at the same time. And what we've seen is no matter how good the design is or how good the mix is or how good the base is, eventually all roads are going to crack.
Keeping up with today's aging infrastructure can be a daunting task. Tenkata Geosynthetics provides sustainable solutions for the improvement of roadways by introducing Tenkata Mirify RSI series. Increasing traffic volumes and ever-changing weather play a role in the deterioration of roadways. Potholes, cracks, and ruts from within the pavement are causing safety issues, longer drive times, and increased maintenance costs. The Tenkata Mirify RSI series provide a sustainable solution in building longer-lasting roadways with lower economical life cycle costs, allowing a reduction in the use of natural resources, thus saving money and increasing the lifetime of roadways up to 10 times. With the integration of Tenkata Mirify RSI, roadways have proven to be more durable and longer lasting for decades to come. The Tenkata Mirify RSI solution prevents potholes, cracks, and ruts from forming. Build smoother, longer lasting roads with lower fuel usage and insurance costs for motorists. Build the best. Specify Mirify. Tenkata. Materials that make a difference.
I love that accidentally just loaded up. I had my finger resting on there and I was getting excited about teeing up that video for you. And I was going to give you a little warning and brief introduction to it, that sometimes when we get a lot of people on these, it slows down the Zoom a little bit, uses up some of the capacity. We have 100 registrants on here, and I'm very excited about that. That video on mine was a little choppy with the pictures, but the audio was good except for one part. I love that video because it's a break from my voice. She sounds much prettier than me, and she is also very efficient with her words and very clear. That video introduces Tenkata Mirify's RSI solution, RS580i. And all the categories you see on this screen appeared in that video: the separation, filtration, drainage, confinement, reinforcement. Plus they added sustainable and cost efficient. Those really matter when you're talking about a perpetual solution. I've made this graphic of separation much larger. By the way, you can't read these, so I don't like to read to an audience, but I'm worried some of you might be on a mobile device. And if you are, please watch the road. Better yet, pull over, don't drive. But as you're listening to this, we're talking about the different categories that road confinement, road reinforcement can provide. And Tenkata Mirify came up with a solution that's amazing because it provides all the strength and the other characteristics we need, plus separation. And it wasn't until they really came out with that we realized how important separation was. There's an old adage that says 10 pounds of stone on 10 pounds of mud gives you 20 pounds of mud. I live on a gravel road with a gravel driveway, and my kids often ask, Daddy, and they don't say Daddy anymore, they're older, Dad, does the rock go down in the mud or does the mud come up through the rock? And I always answer yes, both are happening. So there's no separation there. And especially with soft soils, as that migrates up into the rock or the rock gets pushed down into the mud, you end up losing the strength of that rock base. So you got to continue to add more rock. There's another little graphic I just popped up to overlay this one on purpose to not totally cover it. But what happened when Tenkata came out with this miracle solution, as they called it, the RS580i, it was able to provide the strength they needed that they're getting from geogrids, plus the separation that geogrids alone cannot provide. And why does that matter? We're going to get into that here in a little bit. One of the things that our supplier, Tenkata Mirify, talks about with their RSI series is that you can reduce the amount of rock you need for your rock base. That is true. The other option is to go ahead and use your rock base that you were going to use, but now that you've added the RSI, you can just get a lot more strength and a lot more life out of that pavement going towards perpetual pavement. There's a lot of research behind this, and we have the reports that we can share with you. If you're an engine nerd like me, schedule a lunch and learn with us, and I'll come to your office. And if we can't come to your office because we haven't been given the all clear, I'll do a lunch and learn like this live with you in your office, and we can keep the mic open so you can just have dialogue with me. but I can give you all the research that shows that just losing 20% of your aggregate, which is the mud coming up into the rock or the rock going down in the mud, can cause you to lose 50% of your strength. In this case, they call it load carrying capacity. Think about that for a minute. 20%, it could be just a few inches depending on the thickness of your rock base. Now you've lost 50% of the strength of that rock base that's supposed to support that road. You're going to get premature failure. RSI brags about 5 different categories for their series, for their product. And the higher modulus is higher strength, higher water flow filtration, better confinement, similar to what geogrids do, and better separation that we just talked about. One that they added that I wasn't sure I really appreciated more than 5 years ago when I started working with ASP Quick and now Bowman was product identification. Why does that matter? The little I in the front of this word integration is orange, not black. As you look at this picture, for those that aren't driving, I ask when we're live, what color is that fabric? And you've got to answer that for yourself because I've got you muted. Go ahead and say it out loud. It's like watching Dora the Explorer. Do you see the mountain? Do you see the fabric? I get anywhere a range of answers from orange to maroon to burgundy to red. No one says black. That's what matters. If a specifier specifies this product on his or her project, they did it because they care about the integrity of the project. They care about the performance of the project. This is especially true for soft soils or wet soils, and you can see both here as the contractor standing in the mud puddle. We'll get more into really wet areas with the next solution. But for right now, it's key to think about what is the color of that fabric and why does that matter? That's product identification. If a specifier calls out an RSI product on their plans, they want to defend their spec. They want to make sure if they drive by, they see the right product on the ground. If it's a black geotextile fabric, all of those other geotextile fabrics look the same. You really can't tell the difference. So you want to be careful to defend your spec because all geotextiles are not created equal. They perform differently. They have different characteristics. And we're going to get into that in this next slide. This is just a real simple graphic. There's a lot of other products that were tested by independent labs. This one happens to be in Louisiana. A lot of testing was done in Alaska. There's been a number of universities that have tested these products and compared them with each other in scientific tests. So they came up with scientific data. And in this, it's showing the pre-rut deformation. And that is when the base doesn't rebound and it keeps a permanent deformation in the base, that's going to expect the pavement to carry that load. And flexible pavements aren't going to carry that load. They're going to follow the base. So GeoGrid can provide good confinement and reinforcement, but it can't provide that separation. So what tends to happen with a GeoGrid alone is you can get that contamination of the aggregate base with the soil fines. So eventually you start to accumulate deformation in the base. This says 15 millimeters. That's going to be over a half an inch. That's going to end up being cracking in the flexible pavement above it in asphalt. Mirify RS 580i shows half of the deformation under the same number of wheel passes, and it continues to get stronger quicker. That's a stress-strain relationship, meaning it doesn't have to stretch before it gets strong, not like the other products on the market. So the Mirify RSI series is definitely different than everything else. This happens to be a really cool picture that maybe was photoshopped a little bit to show how orange it is. But we've had highway projects and railway projects that have used huge quantities of RSI, and the specifier can drive by, see the orange, and make sure that they're putting down the geotextile they've specified. Now, I'm talking about adding the strength and longevity and keeping that aggregate clean as you do with RSI. It leads us to the biggest problem that engineers and anybody has with roadways. And just like real estate, you're supposed to ask people what are the 3 biggest concerns with pavement: drainage, drainage, drainage. Now, RSI is strong and it's great for soft soils, but it alone isn't a drainage solution by itself. And drainage matters because you're going to get potholes, you're going to have hydroplaning cars, it's a safety issue. And it really does show up with somebody who has old tires, like my kids. They live on a gravel road and they drive old cars. Safety is an issue. Mirify used their RSI product, which is super strong. Let me get a drink. They added a drainage component, unparalleled with anything else in the industry. Watch this little graphic. Let me animate this as I hit the right button. You can see it shows moisture coming up through the soil, and I'll talk about some cases where that happens. If that was to continue up, that would just create a really soft, saturated base. Or if you had a product that would seal that off, almost like an impermeable liner, you create a water bed. That's not going to do good for anybody. That's still going to cause the road to fail. This product here creates a capillary break and a drainage layer. So any of the excess moisture in the base is going to come up and hit the Mirify H2RI, which is, like I said, as strong as RSI, but it has these little channels in there that actually wick away moisture, similar to an active fitness shirt. I can't say brand names. What that does is it works like a siphon. Rather than work like a drainage layer that operates only due to gravity, which would be out of luck if there was no slope or fall, or out of luck if there was a wrinkle or a fold in that rolled product. H2RI can go up and over any wrinkle or fold or deformation in the base. This is looking straight down on a dish full of blue water, and it was just dropped in there. Nothing exciting to happen, just the pressure of the liquid. The hydrostatic pressure pushes it up into this H2RI, and once that siphon starts, it continues. And on this little graphic, for those that can't see it, it shows that the blue liquid made its way out from the right to the left. And the plan view of this, which I should include and I took it out, shows this as a hump up and over. The way I narrate it is I grew up in southern Iowa, poor kid living in the country, and we used to siphon gas out of old trucks and tractors to put into a dirt bike. And once you suck on the hose and get that gas started, it just continues to flow into your container below. And I hate to encourage you to siphon gas, especially on tough economic times. Gas is cheap, so don't do it. I'm just saying this works like a siphon, and this is fantastic because in the past, this was a concern that all designers had. If they had a drainage layer, they had to make sure it was installed perfectly. There can't be any wrinkles or folds, or it wouldn't drain. This is a graphic that just shows the comparison of different products and how they work in draining the soil pressure in undrained shear strength of fine grained soils, it says. Well, the difference here is the percentage of the moisture content. On the far left is this red line, which should be blue. I'll edit this graphic someday. It shows H2RI and what happened to the moisture content compared to some of the other drainage composites and other products that were intended to solve wet soils. This is a significant increase in optimizing the moisture content. And there's a lot of research that says the reason that matters is for every 1% reduction in moisture content, you lose 20% of the strength of that soil. Or the other way of saying it, for every 1% that you optimize the moisture content, you effectively increase the soil strength. Now we're creating a stronger base. The research shows that just by changing it by 2%, you can increase the resilient modulus, which is going to make your road stronger and last longer, by 150%. So a little bit of an investment up front in putting down a better base now can lead to a much better road section. And this is like building a cake. Everything sits on top of the sub base, and then the base, and then the pavement. So another way to say it is if you reduce the optimum moisture by 2%, it decreases the pavement deformation by more than 50%. This really first appeared on ice road truckers in Alaska, and they did a lot of research on roads up there because they have tremendous fluctuation in the amount of moisture they get in their soil and in their road base. You can see that there's moisture throughout this new road base on the Dalton Highway. Some of you are familiar with the name of that. You can see where the moisture is going up the slope. And then in a section of that roadway, they laid down their H2RI. Look at this. This is 7 years ago. So while we still talk about it as a new technology, it's because it's becoming new to be embraced in a larger market, not just in Alaska. And there's already, MoDOT has used it on some bridge approaches. A lot of organizations that we deal with on a regular basis have already started using it for their wettest areas. They might use RSI on the rest of the roadway, but on a really wet section, they could use H2RI. And what's neat about this is they went out there to look at this, and they accidentally got one of the best pictures they could ever use to promote this solution. They went out there and saw the morning after they had finished this road, and they saw how wet the base was below it. They could see that capillary break right where the H2RI was draining. In this example, they daylighted it out to the shoulder. I've talked to a friend of mine that works for a big engineering firm here that does a lot of design for the DOT, and he would talk about rolling that down to a lateral drainage tile. Instead of exposing it, have a lateral drainage tile running the length of the roadway. That's another option. So if we've improved our base and we've made it last longer, and we've achieved what we want to call perpetual aggregate base, now if we're going to do the next layer in the cake, then we're going to have to go with the pavement above it. So before I hand this over, I want to reiterate something. There's only so much budget to fix these roads. Again, this isn't an indictment on any of us that we're getting a D on our roads. The fact is we have to take that limited budget and figure out how to spend it. In a perfect world, we would entirely replace a road, and the best way to solve drainage would be get down there and regrade the ditches, put in new culverts that are properly sized, use only good material for the sub base, then build up a really good aggregate base, and then you put on the best pavement. Fact is, a lot of communities are faced with having to do just an overlay. And sometimes they roll the dice and do an overlay on a road section that maybe needed to be replaced more than just an overlay, and they just bought themselves some time. The next solution that we're going to talk about is going to touch on that a little bit. But I really want you to know there's a happy medium somewhere in there. You can leave the base, the sub base in place. You can get down and replace part of your aggregate base. And if you use a product like RSI or H2RI, you can get longer life out of that. So a small investment up front can give you a significant increase in the life of that pavement at the end. So remember to use the Q&A, send us your questions. We'll get to them at the end here. I'm going to tee this up for Lexi Ondrick. And this is my last slide, Don, so you can go ahead and take away controls and introduce Alexi, who's going to introduce to you a perpetual paving solution. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. And with
Yep.
that, Alexiandric.
Surface Tech, a global leader in innovative additive solutions for the asphalt and concrete industries, proudly introduces Ace Fiber. Ace Fiber, a frac solution, is an Aramid Kevlar fiber additive with a unique delivery system. The Aramid is coated with a sassabit wax that efficiently controls the fiber into the hot or warm mix, then burns off, leaving the Aramid to properly disperse. As for performance, Ace Fiber delivers a dramatic life expectancy increase while significantly reducing rutting and cracking. It also provides a value proposition for those seeking to reduce the control thickness and maintain or exceed control standards. As part of Surface Tech's ongoing support and to provide a professional peace of mind for every job, an accredited geotech engineer will actually oversee your plant mix the days of the job for an add-on fee. Depending on the size or complexity of the job, the engineer will either provide a hand mix or oversee a machine-fed mix into your contractor's plant process. In most cases, ACE will be introduced onto the wrap belt or directly machine-fed into the mix hopper. The proper dosage is pre-calibrated and fed based on the job specs and plant's rate of speed for the job. Afterwards, a PE certification for the proper mix will be promptly provided by the mixing geotech engineer of record. Further, the adoption process for both plant mix and field installation is seamless. Nothing required to introduce into existing contractor protocols. This is a significant feature in that most new technologies require a change in process, not with ACE. Once mixed, the hot or warm mix asphalt will perform without any change to protocols for the paving contractor as far as installation is concerned. Raking is superior, as is the ease of spread and workability of the asphalt. So in conclusion, consider our superior benefits: ease of adoption, engineer oversight and certification, installation performance, and low cost. This is a green solution that pays for itself while delivering superior results for all that use and depend on the finished product. It's incumbent upon you to take a hard look at why you're not including Ace Fiber into all your upcoming design and installations.
Well, a great video, so my part is over. Just kidding. Thanks, Bill. As Bill introduced me, my name is Alexiandric. I've been with ASP a few years now, promoting the Perpetual Pavement. I grew up in the asphalt industry. My parents have an asphalt plant on the East Coast. Grew up feeding cold feed bins, shoveling under the bins, running the plant during the summers. So I've had a lot of experience with the asphalt world, understanding perpetual pavement and design. I cover ASP's southern areas, so I cover Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Illinois. So let's get into the Ace Fiber part. For those of you that are not familiar with Aramid fiber, it's a mixture of 2.1 ounces of fiber, 2.1 ounces of wax. We have bundles that are 3/4 inch and 1.5 inches long. You get approximately 10,000 fibers per bundle and about 19 million fibers per ton of asphalt. You can see the center picture, the coated fiber. At 170 degrees, it starts to melt, and at 190, it's totally soluble in the mix. Now, sassabit has been used for years in warm mix. It's not enough sassabit wax to actually change the mix design. You don't have to change any of the binder. So it's a nice chemical. It's a nice compound to be able to add into the mix, but you're not adding any chemicals or any plastics in that could do any harm to the mix. Now, the reason we use Aramid is 5 times stronger than steel. You can see there on the left-hand side of the chart, we have a breakdown of 932 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot mix is running at about 400 degrees. So if you've got mix that's 900, it means your plant's on fire, so you've got some other issues. The other reason we're using it, it has a high strength at low strain. meaning it doesn't need to be pulled like a geogrid for it to achieve its strength. Other fibers have been used. The cellulose fiber is a very common one. Now, just to show a little change, is that cellulose fiber is a fiber that's used for absorption. You're using it for curb mix, you're using it for mixes that have to travel a long way. It's holding oil, so you can increase your oil content and get mix that doesn't stiffen over time. Aramid is not that type of fiber, so there's a lot of misconception about the two. Aramid is actually a fiber that is going to include strength. It's going to add cracking and rutting resistance. So there's a difference between the fibers that people use, and this is a newer fiber that's being used in hot mix. So what is the actual Aramid? Aramid is a manufactured fiber. It's used for ballistic protection, for fire, police, military. You're replacing high strength steel with a lightweight Aramid. Aramid also goes by the name of Kevlar. Aramid is the actual fiber that makes up Kevlar. So as you can see in the asphalt, you can see these hair-like fibrils that are under a microscope. You can see the little tiny fibers. You can see they root in the binder. Before, the only bond was the liquid AC, the black asphalt cement that you see right there. But now you have an actual fiber that's intertwining between all the pieces of aggregate and binding that aggregate together. So we're going to talk about two things today, or three things, what fiber does. We're going to talk about the adding strength, which we'll get into here in a second. And then later on, we're going to talk about how it controls the stresses. It's going to help with cracking, rutting. So anything that we talk about today, we're going back to the core values of ACE fiber, talking about strength and talking about the cracking and rutting resistance. That might be on a quiz later, just to let you know. So Bill talked about the aggregate base. He talked about the RS product. Now we're going to get into the actual design of the pavement and strength and rutting and cracking resistance. So here's a test. There's lots of tests that the asphalt industry uses to go over strength. It goes over rutting, goes over cracking. There's a wide variety of tests. We're just going to go over a couple today. We could talk about them all day, but we're just going to go over a few. So this is the automated plate load test that we'll use today. We'll just talk about it for a little bit of strength. So as you can see here on the left-hand side is going to be a control section without fiber. On the right-hand side for these next couple charts, it'll have a fiber section. So on this one, you see a 150% increase in elastic modulus. This next one, all these projects are done at a Love's Travel Center. We have a national account with Love's, all new asphalt that they use. They're still using concrete around the pumps, but all the asphalt on their whole parking surfaces are asphalt filled with fiber now. So you can see a 40% increase in the layer coefficient and 320% increase in your easel count. So you can see there on the left-hand side, we're talking about adding strength. We have 150, 40, and anywhere from 100 to 500% increase in easels. Now, what are your most common signs of pavement failure? As Bill already showed this, I think everybody's roads in some way, shape, or form look like this. You have your rutting, you have your raveling, you have your fatigue, you have your block cracking, thermal reflective cracking, but everybody's roads, we're not getting the same type of mix, we're not getting the same type of oil. Every road is getting worse and worse. After every overlay, it just continues to get worse. So now we're going to switch sides. We talked about the strength. Now we're going to talk about the control distresses. We're going to talk about how it helps with rutting, how it helps with cracking. So this is a simple PG chart. Everybody's using about a 6422, at least here in St. Louis. Some areas you go higher, some areas you go lower. But when you add fiber to your mix, your 6422 is going to perform like a 7028 or a 7628. Now you can change your binder, you can put polymers in it, but no matter what you do, you're never going to have a product like this that helps with strength and adds rutting and cracking resistance. No matter what polymers you're putting in, no matter what you're changing, you're not going to get anything unless you put fiber in. So here's a number of tests that we have This is a chart of 8. I think we're now up to 14 different tests showing the increases and the added benefit of fiber. We have all this information we can make available to you. We will give another presentation if we're all under quarantine still, or we can come into your office and do a lunch and learn, or just send you an email with all of our testing. But we have a number of tests out there. It would take all day to go through them, but we have those available for you. So kind of going back, showing all the increases, the added benefits of fiber in all of your mixes. You can see there all the added benefits of using fiber. Now here's a little, break it up a little bit. This is an overlay test section that was done before the 1.5-inch overlay. You still have to go through and do all your crack filling. You're not changing that, but you can see the crack going all the way across the road. Once they did an 1.5-inch overlay, you have your control lane here on the near side of the screen. You can see your crack begins right on the shoulder and goes all the way to the center line. Right there, you can see it coming and stopping right where the ACE section begins. Now, after a 1.5 years, we came back, we looked at it. We had 13 cracks return on the control side, and only 1 came back on the ACE side, and that was up against the bridge. So you're taking a flexible pavement and you're putting it up against a rigid surface where you're going to have cracks and you're going to have issues with your road anyway. So we'll go through just 2 of the tests that are widely accepted. We'll go through the ideal CT and the Hamburg rut test. So both of these are helping towards your balanced mix design. So the first one we'll go through is the ideal CT. This is becoming more widely accepted from state to state. It is a repeatable index test. Most asphalt labs on site or independent labs have this machine. It's a repeatable test. You can do it throughout the course of the day. You can take samples. You can be testing your cracking. One of the big things about this is that it's an inexpensive test. It's one that can be done on site. A lot of asphalt plants have this test in place and are able to use it throughout their asphalt design. Next we'll go through is the Hamburg test or Hamburg test. I've been quarantined for a week, so a hamburger sounds really good, so we'll call it that today. But it's a water bath test. They take little pucks, they run a simulated wheel over it, and then you check your rut depth. So on the ideal, we had a project that we tested, and if you see there with your control side without ACE, and then if you look at your single dose and double dose. Now, a single dose of ACE fiber is what we typically recommend for every road, for every overlay, for whatever depth you're doing, we recommend that. Not every road is the same. As Bill talked about the subgrade, you know, you're looking at all different roads that can just have a disaster of problems. You can look at, you know, concrete overlays. A single dose is not going to be your answer every single time. ACE fiber is not going to be your answer every single time. Sometimes full depth reclamation or a completely new road is going to be the answer, but we do have other options. We have a good, better, best. We can do testing on the road to know what our best option is going to be. Now, this was done for one of our projects that we did with Missouri DOT. We did the Hamburg testing and we did the ideal CT afterwards. This was done by the testing facility at Mizzou. If you look on the left-hand side, we have a 47% increase from the control lane to the fiber lane, testing that asphalt, showing that better crack resistance. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the rut depth. So higher the chart is not necessarily better. So if you look at it, you're at the blue side is 5,000 passes with the wheel. And at the orange side, you have 10,000 passes with the wheel. At 10,000 passes, you're getting a 14.2 millimeter rut depth versus 4.8. So you can really see the added benefit of fiber in your rutting. Now that's gonna, with all these tests, with all these added benefits, you're really achieving a balanced mix design. You're looking for added cracking, your added resistance, you're looking for added rut resistance and your added strength. Now, how do you get it in? Here's my specialty. I swore I'd never go back into asphalt, and here I am. So on the left-hand side, you see a drum plant. On the right-hand side, you see a batch plant. We have a machine that comes in, or we have a line vac that they talked about in the video. We back our machine in, set it up, get it plumbed in. All we need is air and a little bit of power. We run a hose up to the wrap collar at the drum plant. We set our plant rate. The machine runs, it doses out the 4.2 ounces. You'll see a video of that coming up. On the right-hand side, we have a line vac. If you're doing, a 3, 5, 7 ton batch, we have a line vac that we just blast in the amount of material that we need, and it goes right in at the Pug Miller weigh hopper. So here's a video. Here's our machine, our MD3. We have all the fiber in the hopper. It's going down into the pans. We have our sensors there metering it out. It doses out the 4.2 ounces, drops it in. There's our line vac. It goes through our 2-inch hose all the way up. Then our tech is up at top, making sure it's coming out on the other end. It's going right into the weigh hopper, so it's getting introduced into the mix. Once we have it up there, it's at that 170 degrees, 190, the wax is totally melted off, and those little sticks you see blow apart like dandelions. Now in this one, you can see we've got our drum. It's already been introduced into the mix. It's been made. It's getting up into the silo, down through the silo and into the truck. So you can see the whole process of asphalt being made with fiber. Then on the job, the crews don't even notice the difference with the mix. They just see it going in. There's no fiber sticking out. We have it on we have our people on site on the jobs checking everything out. And then here you go in place. Now, one thing that all the roller operators have said is they achieve compaction in fewer passes with the fiber in the mix than without. So it's less labor time for the rollers. That roadway is opening up that much sooner. And then finally, you can see some fiber in the mix. That's the way you're going to see it. You'll see it on the end of rakes. You'll see it on the end of shovels. You can pick up some clumps of it and see the fiber, but the fiber just doesn't stick out. It's not changing the color of the road. And then this is just a simple brochure that we hand out at our shows. It just reiterates some of our facts. It shows what the fiber does. But we've been able to show you today from start to finish, going through our machine into the plant, into the trucks, and then ultimately to the crews, that there's no change in the mix. There's no change in the mix design, but you're able to see that increased life and longevity of the mix. So with that, I'll hand it back to Bill.
All right, Bill. Bill?
Yeah, that's great. I had somebody coming in here, a truck driver, wanting me to help him unload a truck. So sorry, everybody. This is real world. We really are working. We're open and ready for business. So sorry about that. Nice guy. I wish I could have helped him. Thank you, Alexi. Don, you jumped, right to this slide. That's okay. Or did I do that? Let's go back. Where we're getting ahead here. Where are we at? Yeah, let's go back a couple of slides. I was going to wrap something up here. Sorry, guys. One of the things I want to make sure I didn't gloss over in talking about RS580i and H2RI is H2RI was specifically invented just to make sure that they're draining off those really, really wet areas. I had said that I know of a couple projects with H2RI in Missouri, and I went and checked those while Alexi was giving his presentation. And before I was asked to unload this truck, I went and looked at our case studies. And Jeff Chambers asked a question, and I know you guys are all muted so you can't hear each other, but he asked a question through the Q&A, and I answered it in a way that you should all be able to see that. But this is our first Zoom webinar, so if not, I'll go ahead and ask it and answer it since we're doing great on time, thanks to Don and Alexi keeping us going. He asked which projects MoDOT used H2RI on, and one in particular is the Boone Bridge. That's down in St. Louis County. And if this is the Jeff Chambers from MoDOT, he should be in that same area, so he won't have to go very far. He can sneak out of his quarantine and drive by and look at the project, but he's not going to see the product. H2RI is going to be buried, and the only thing he's going to know is if that base is holding up well because it's being properly drained with H2RI. The other projects that I specifically thought of were a public library and a bridge in St. Joe and several others that use the RS580i, and I can share those case studies as well. If you imagine a construction site that's graded out and they're getting ready to start compacting the layers of the sub base, and it's wet or it's soft, and you've seen some of those projects where equipment gets stuck in the mud, That's where this solution comes in. There's something called Tenkata U that Murify hosts down in Georgia, and most of us that have become specialists with their product and others have gone down there, and they have a big mud pit that's pretty cool. You take off your shoes, you slip into rubber boots. They usually do this as a bus tour with 20 engineers or product reps, and you get to walk down there in the mud pit, and you get to feel what it's like to walk in soft soil or soft mud just with your boots, and you sink. Then you get to step up onto geogrid with no separation fabric, and again you sink as everything comes up through the geogrid when you step on it. And third and finally, you get to step out onto their products, RS5ADI and H2RI, and you get to feel how H2RI relieves that soil pressure, and you get to walk on it as if it does kind of feel like a waterbed when it's just you walking on it personally, but you do not sink, and you can make your way all the way across the rest of the course. Where some of our contractor clients have used it is when they're getting excavators stuck in the mud, or they're getting sunk in some really soft, low CBR soils, even if they're not really wet. And they get to put these things out there, and these things are really working fantastic. They can roll out one of these products and put the rock out on top of it and work their way out with equipment. And then they're able to provide the base they need to build their bridge approach or their highway, whatever project they want to use. So it's been really revolutionary. And it's just been in the recent years that we've done a good push here in the Midwest, all the way over to Colorado, to get people to understand the value of it here, even if they don't have the permafrost they have in Alaska. Now I'll advance the slide, and it was talking about that report card. Let's bring it back to the beginning. Is it too much to ask that we shoot for an A? And if we come up short, like I so often did in college, at least we did better than a D than I usually did in college. So if we work together and you contact us as your solutions provider, we're more than just somebody that's got a big warehouse that's going to deliver material and drop it off. Some of those big box stores for you home improvement fans, you have to know what you're doing. If you walk in there and you're buying a product and you need to take it home and know how to use it yourself. Whereas if you remember some of the mom and pop shops, and some of my friends that work at big box stores are still good at this, they provide a level of service that says, I want to make sure you understand your problem at home and what you're trying to fix. We want to make sure you understand your problem on your construction site and what you're trying to fix. And we can help on the design side of that. And stay tuned, we can help through the pre-con with any of your chosen contractors. We help those contractors, if it's something new to them, make sure they understand the proper installation. So they're defending your spec all the way through to whoever owns this and how they have to maintain it, whatever that solution is. As we're going to get into our other series, we're going to, in 2 weeks, Dom's going to tee this up. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing low impact development and green infrastructure. I hope if you're not in that business, you'll share that word with somebody else, because we're going to continue to walk alongside you as your partners in your profession. And it doesn't cost you anything to have this engineer help your engineer, or if you are an engineer, to give you my advice. And we're going to be your project partners all the way through from beginning to end. So we're going to shoot to get better grades. Can't tell you who that kid is, but I have legal permission from his mom and him that I can use that picture. But our question is, how can we expect them to do better on their report cards if we don't do better on ours? So let's make our roads last longer. Let's just quit kicking the can down the road. Let's do a better job of using these perpetual solutions that can make us move on to other classifications of the road. Every county engineer, state engineer, even city engineer has a map, and they classify their priorities A, B, and C. And when they have enough money, they can do all of A, B, and C. But when money's short, they got to keep going back to those same priority roads. If they make those priority roads last longer, they can start to get to some of those other roads. So we're here to work with you. We want to know if you have any questions. You're muted, so now's the time to type them into the Q&A, and I see one. I'm going to see if I can open that. Yes, I am. All right, Jeff Chambers, thank you. And I think you're going to win something out of this. When this all frees up and clears up, I think somebody ought to buy you a sandwich. If you can't accept a sandwich because you work for the DOT, we'll buy one, and we'll sit there and watch you eat yours. So thank you for that question. Anybody else have a Q&A for us? We'll get to it right now. Don, we're doing great on time. It's 1:18. I know you got a little business you want to take over. We want to get everybody out of here by 1:30, but we want to continue to add value to your time. So please give us feedback on how we did on this presentation and what types of products you want to see. And I haven't said it yet today. I really emphasize that you reach out to us and let us do this kind of a presentation directly with your office. We'll open the mic and we'll just have a conversation. For you that want to dig deeper in the data, I'm thrilled to do that. If you want to talk more of the technical side, I'm thrilled to do that. Alexi and I, either one, can talk about how we can help you with your solutions. And we're all, not just Alexi and I, Don and everybody that works for Quick Supply, ASP Enterprises, Bowman Construction Supply, we're looking forward to hearing from you. We're open for business. Thank you.
Hey, Bill.
Yep.
We do have a question. Steve Polk has asked if fiber is ever, or will fiber work on porous asphalt?
I love that question, Steve, and it's been being asked for a while now. Nobody's put their neck on the line to do it yet, but we have a lot of people that said they're going to be the first. So if you have some of your friends, I know you're in the stormwater world as well. If you've got some of your friends that want to help jump in on that, I would love to talk to them. In fact, the ideal CT test that we're doing now is not just providing the wax-bound fibers that sometimes we call French fries, is providing the loose fiber and the Sassabit wax as a certain quantity for the ideal CT. What that tells me is if somebody wanted to do some type of a lab production of asphalt, there's some other things that we could maybe do with them. To date, no, I don't know of any that's been used on porous asphalt, and I would not use this same fiber called Ace Fiber impervious concrete pavement. There's another product out there that the supplier has called Juno that's for a different presentation. And the reason I say that is you have a hard time dealing with those loose fibers without the Sassabit wax. And as Alexi mentioned, the Sassabit wax needs to get up to 170 to 190 degrees to properly disperse those fibers. So in a cold mix or even in the concrete mix, you wouldn't be melting off that wax. But we can talk offline because I still have some creative ideas. We love thinking outside the box. It's 1:20. We still have time to talk about it further. Steve, thanks for both of those questions. I'll even type in some written answers after we get done here. But yes, I'm interested in seeing what we could do with porous asphalt and to be continued on another solution for concrete pavement. Thanks, Don.
Yep. One of the other things I wanted to discuss was Bill talking about MoDOT using H2RI on the Boone Bridge. That was actually part of a design build where the design engineer determined it was a pretty good savings instead of the drainage layer that they were going to have to provide of using H2RI instead. Also, Missouri DOT has used H2RI on a fix on a section of I-70 somewhere out near or past Wentzville. They had a wet spot on the main highway that they were repairing every year. 3 years ago, they put H2RI down, and it's working very well. In fact, one of the MoDOT people has written a white paper on it. In fact, so TNCOT also has Missouri S&T doing some testing on H2RI. So there's a lot of stuff really going on there. So I want to make sure we reiterated that. If we don't have any other questions, you still have time to add them. We're going to go ahead and finish off the end here. So just to kind of the nuts and bolts of moving forward, you have my contact information right there, dteeman@aspnt.com. If you have any information you'd like to get, I will be the center point and we'll then funnel those requests out to our other regional people. If you want to schedule a virtual lunch and learn in the next couple of weeks or whenever, we will do them obviously virtually as long as we have to through the Zoom system. You can email me as well, and I will pass that along to the appropriate people. Also, again, the website is definitely something that has a lot of resources in it, a lot of technical data. You can find all the stuff. For most of the Mirify documents, there are actually links that go directly to Mirify's website so that they're the most current possible. And then I want to talk about PDHs briefly. So like I had mentioned, we're going to send out a SurveyMonkey link here, hopefully yet this afternoon, that will have a series of 5 or 6 questions. I think it's 5 questions, just to make sure that that everybody's participating here. It also then will ask you for your name and your email address so we can send you that PDH back. Here's a little picture of the actual quiz. It's very straightforward, very simple. 5 technical questions. Put your contact information in there. And also, please offer any other feedback, whether it's particular to how we are doing this, because we're trying to get better, but also if there's other topics you feel like we should have on this. And also, there's also an opportunity to request some project assistance. If you do that through the SurveyMonkey, then I will also send that out to the appropriate technical representative to help you with that as well. And then you should see that PDH in the next couple days. Feel free, if you don't see it in a week, as you all can well imagine, things are a little crazy right now. And if by chance I've missed you somehow, do not hesitate to email me directly, and I'll make sure that we get you that PDH. My goal is to have that done though within 7 days of today. Here is the list of the other webinars that we have planned for right now. As you can see, the next one is our low impact development solutions on April 8th that Bill Murphy will be presenting again on.
Yes.
If you go to aspent.com and click on our news section, that is the only place I've been able to figure out right now the easiest way to get something on our website that can get you up-to-date information. We will be sending out the constant contact emails as well to remind you and also sign up. As of today, every one of these that you see here has a registration page, and you can register for them now. We did initially max out our number to 100 for this one. If we get to 100, we will take a look and see if we can expand that to get more people the ability to get on our webinars. And finally, we thank you for your time. Bill, do you have anything you have for closing?
I do. I just want to say thanks to everybody for doing this. I know it's a difficult time for all of us. I love that we can stay connected like this. I hope you all stay safe, and I'm really looking forward to seeing most of you, if not all of you, in person someday soon. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Good job, Donna.
Yeah, Alexa, you have anything?
Yeah, the same goes for me. I appreciate everybody taking the time. I know it's kind of hectic right now, but let us know if we can jump back on and give another presentation, or if there's somebody that wasn't on today that you might know that would like to hear us, let us know. Thank you.
Yep. And we will be posting this. I have been recording this, so we will be posting this. I'm not exactly sure where, but in your PDH email, you'll get a link so that you can at least access it if you want to review something that we had on it, or if you want to pass it along to somebody else. So thank you, everybody, for your time. We really appreciate it. We look forward to working with you. We sure would like to be able to do that however we can. So thank you for your time, and have a great day. Be safe. Thank you.